Zach feeding the street, buns on the run. Today's topic is something that I think each of you will find very interesting, and I hope that you will find something that you'll be able to consider every day while you're out and about. Let's get right to it. If you've ever had to return anything to the grocery store or to Walmart or whatever, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You buy something, you have full intent of using it, or you get down the street, maybe it's a tool, maybe furniture or whatever. You get down the street, you unpackage it, you're at your house, and you realize you can't use it for whatever reason. Now you've got to go through the hassle, you take it back, you stand in line, you have several things that you count as cost. Among those costs are your time, your wasted energy, your gas. The store also has things that they count as cost. They have to have a person for this. They have a person at the counter that takes returns. You've all seen it, the return counter. That person, that's their whole job. Then they have to have a place for this. They have to have a procedure for this. Then, where these things are stored, they all get shipped back to the manufacturer, or they get some kind of credit for this. A lot of times there's too much logistics involved for it, so the manufacturer gives them credit or whatever just to put it out there because there's a piece missing or whatever, or they tell the manufacturer what happened and they send out a part or whatever. Okay, but there's a whole list of things that goes on. So for those of you who may not be aware, this is called the cost of poor quality. So today's topic is, what about poor morals, poor standards in America? What is the cost of poor morals, poor values in America? We talk about American values all the time, but I'm not sure how many of you actually sit back and think of right and wrong on a daily basis, but I'm guessing there's a lot of you out there. Maybe think of it on a smaller scale. You might have situations you come across on a daily basis that cause you to think about it, like perhaps you're shortchanged at the cash register, or your kid is being bullied at school, or you have a boss that you deal with. Maybe you are in a court case. But have you ever sat back and looked at the magnitude of it all? I mean, all of us dealing with all of it all at the same time on a global scale. Most of us in mainstream America think about the police, the FBI, the State Department, Fire Department, U.S. military, and these type of departments and organizations as generally being neutral organizations that are there to help us should we need them. We think of them as an expense, but they're kind of there in the background of our daily lives. We don't necessarily get a bill each month. We just say, oh, my tax dollars go to that. So occasionally they pop up here and there in various events, as various events occur. You know, I got my car broken into, or this happened, I got in a fight with this person and we had to call the police, etc. But how much of what these organizations do, I want to get technical here, I want to focus in on this. How much of what these organizations do is because of the bad things people do, and how much of those bad things that people do is because in America we don't teach good values. Now you're going to hear this because in America we hear from many sectors, oh, well, you can't legislate morality. And basically what they're saying is, oh, well, we can't have standards. Really? Really? Oh, we can't have standards at school. We can have standards in the automobile industry. We can have standards when it comes to energy and oil and weapons and everything under the sun, but we can't have standards when it comes to society. Let's take a look at the fire department. They're a good organization, right? I mean, they're in every parade and whatnot. You see them around town, you know them, and generally speaking, they're looked at positively. I want to read you something that's a very old document. It's from 1997. It's to illustrate a point. The point is about the effects of man-made problems, and it's not about the data itself. That's why I chose an old document. It's from FEMA, report titled, quote, Arson in the United States, National Fire Data Center. Let me read a small section. Quote, arson is a serious problem in the United States. It is the #1 cause of all fires, and it annually kills hundreds of Americans, injures thousands more, and causes over $3 billion in damage to property. In each of the past 10 years, there have been over 500,000 arson fires. During 1994, the most recent year for which information is available, the total number of arson fires in the U.S. was estimated at 548,500. Over 107,000 of these fires occurred in structures, both residential and non-residential. In 1994, arson fires accounted for an estimated 560 fire deaths, 3,440 fire injuries, and $3.6 billion in property damage. End quote. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to focus on the cost in terms of deaths, the 560 deaths. We also had the 3,440 injuries, and especially on the 3.6 billion in 1994 alone. That's a lot of money. In 1994, there was roughly 290,000 people living in the United States. If my calculations are correct, now forgive me here, I went to public school, but if my calculations are correct, every single man, woman, and child, be they infant or wheelchair bound, rich, poor, they had a bill of $13.83 that year for fires. Not just any fire, but only for fires specifically caused by arsons in 1994. Okay, that does not include the cost of insurance premiums going up for fire insurance. That does not include the cost of the 100,000 structures that had to be rebuilt. That does not include the insurance for those lost in the fire, or the property loss, or any of the other associated costs of lost time or anything else. Did you catch my meaning with this? So the cost to my family, which at that time I had a wife and only one child, was $41 and roughly 50 cents. This is just one small portion of one small organization or agency we take for granted every day. The fire department. Hey, everybody loves the fire department, right? But let's take a look at some of the other systems that cost us money in the United States. Some of these other agencies I mentioned briefly, earlier. FBI, CIA, State Department, DOD. Let's take a look at crime. 17,000 crime-fighting agencies across the USA. 17,000. There's $150 billion on security for terrorism alone. Unwed mothers. Do you realize we spend $60,000 a year per unwed mother per pregnancy per year? Did you know that? The government pays for 90% of all birth control measures. What about the unseen expenses of fraud, theft, other white-collar crimes that are unsolved? So, how much of the U.S. budget does this equate to? 2011, the budget was 3.7 trillion US dollars. And I want you to look at this, ladies and gentlemen. We are told again and again that we cannot legislate morality. I'm here to tell you that it doesn't look like we're able to legislate much else either. By my simple calculations, we are spending at least 75% of our annual budget on lack of values in America. We pride ourselves on values in America. Where are they? We've got 2 million people incarcerated in the United States. Where are their values? 84% of those claim to be religious, claim to be Christian, as a matter of fact. So by failing to teach people correct principles and how to live by them, it has a price. Who is paying that price? Can you honestly say that you aren't paying that price? So what has to be done here? If you listen to the naysayers, they will inevitably argue that we can't institute a moral code because, quote, whose morals do we use? And, quote, it comes down to religion. I respectfully disagree. These are cop-outs. It's like not having a safety standard or a quality standard or a return policy because whose standard do we use? Now, that's hogwash, ladies and gentlemen. We can and we must set standards for our own sakes. We've got to have standards in society. We are having to barricade ourselves in our own homes. We're having to invent locks to keep people from breaking our locks. We're having to put video cameras on our own homes. We can't even trust our own neighbors. Where does it end? We can and must set standards for our own sakes. I have faith in the American people that we can do this and we must do this. This has been your Morality Report. Join me next time when we talk about gay marriage, gun sales, the upcoming elections, Bin Laden's falsified death. It's nice to have knowledge, but better to have understanding. And my favorite quote, on a clear day you can see for miles, but on a clear mind, you can see forever. This is Matthew Von Trapp signing off for now. So long, folks. Have a good day.